Okay, y'all, this is my third time trying to film this. What's up? It's Jan, back at it again with another nerdy bookish video, and today we're doing my top 10 of 2020. First of all, happy freaking new year. I hope you all had the best holidays. After last year, you all deserve it, but it's a new year. I'm excited. Last year, I read 147 books, which is the most I've read in like my entire life. Thanks to the pandemic, picking my top 10 was so difficult. I do have a few runner-ups that didn't quite make it because it was so difficult, but I really want to include it in this video. So my first runner-up is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. It's basically just her memoir about being in an abusive relationship. It's just such a beautifully written book. There are so many trigger warnings in this book, so tread with caution. But her writing is just so inconceivably good. Like, it's hard to fathom that someone thought about writing this way. It's just so good. So good. Second book in my runner-up list is Anna K by Jenny Lee. This is an Anna Karenina retelling, which I have not read yet, but I do own and I want to get to hopefully this year, but the copy I own is a vintage copy, so I'm kind of nervous because it's 1,000 pages long and it might fall apart if I read it, so I might just get a newer cheap copy too, but it's literally from like the 1920s or something. There was like a movie ticket in it that was like super old. It was like for $2.50 and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I got it from a used bookstore. But anyway, Anna K. It's about this group of teenagers who are super rich and they live in New York, and it's all about their drama and their scandals. It was a fun read, and then the ending was just so intense. I screamed. I was like just totally speechless by the end of the book. I loved it. And then my last runner-up is Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen, and we follow each other on Instagram, and when she followed me I screamed. So Love Boat Taipei is about this girl who has been raised by Asian parents with Asian standards, super strict rules, super strict expectations on like how to live, how to act more ladylike academically, all this stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really relatable. I absolutely loved it. And then it's about her being sent on this summer program in Taiwan, meets all these people and breaks all the rules and just lives her best life basically. And she even meets this guy named Xavier, which is my boyfriend's name, so that was one of the main reasons why I picked it up, I'm not gonna lie. I ended up really loving it. Going straight into my top 10 now. We're gonna go from 10 to 1. Hopefully my camera doesn't die or stop recording. Okay, so number 10 is The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. I know, he's a piece of shit. I heard about all the things he's done, like pretending he had cancer for money and stuff like that. Katie filled me in, but not until after I read this book and after I loved it. I just loved the experience of it. I screamed so many times. I was shook and shaken throughout most of it. And I'm glad I read it still, even though the author has his issues. But this is about a woman named Anna who has agoraphobia. So she doesn't want to leave her house, like she's scared of the outside world. So she has this guy who lives with her who she basically like reduces his rent for so that he can run her outdoor errands, like groceries, stuff like that. So she just stays home and she's an online therapist and she spies on her neighbors, and then one day she sees this thing happen and the neighbors try to convince her that she's crazy, that she didn't really see this thing, and then all hell breaks loose. I could see why people don't like the ending. I can see why Katie made some really good points about how the ending was kind of crappy, but at the time that I was reading it, I really enjoyed it. I read it, I think it was during Summerween or Scallywagathon. I think Summerween. So I'll link that vlog down below. You can see my reactions while I was reading it. It was a good time. Number 9 is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Elizabeth Gilbert, oh my god, I can't say her name. This happened the first 2 times I tried recording this too. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Eat, Pray, Love, if you didn't know, which is one of my favorite memoirs of all time. The movie's really good too. This is a historical fiction novel. I found my love for historical fiction this past year. I think this is the one that started it all. It might have been another book that I'm going to mention in a couple minutes. But City of Girls is about this girl named Vivian, and this takes place in the 1940s. She like got kicked out of college and her parents sent her to Manhattan to live with her aunt who owns this theater. She's a very eccentric woman. Instead of Vivian like getting her shit together like her parents thought she would, she basically goes rogue in New York and just lives the nightlife. I think she loses her virginity at some point. She like meets all these showgirls that she hangs out with every night, and she just goes out, sleeps whenever, drinks whenever. It was a fun read. There's definitely a lot of character growth and she faces the consequences of her actions at some points. I I will reread this at some point. It was so good. Elizabeth, like we're on a first name basis. Elizabeth Gilbert never seems to disappoint for me. Number 8, The Last Flight by Julie Clark. This is the first thriller I read in 2020, but this is one of the few thrillers I read. And from that point on, this is what like sparked my love for thrillers. My stomach just made a weird sound. I don't know if you guys heard that. After this book, I was absolutely in love and intrigued by thrillers, and I just wanted to read them all because they go by so fast. This story was just so captivating. It follows 2 women, Claire and Ava. Claire is like the elite woman who is the wife of this politician, and she was just sick of being known as this politician's wife instead of like her own identity, so she wanted to try to be more individualistic and independent, and she basically just wanted to flee from her life with her husband and all those expectations and responsibilities and stuff. So she plans out this escape. Plans change because her husband's a piece of shit. She meets this woman at the airport, Ava, and then they decide to switch places and flights and clothes and everything because they both wanted to escape their lives. Then Claire finds out that Ava actually has all these deep dark secrets, and as it unravels, it gets more and more intense, and then you just like can't put it down. I did not expect to love this as much as I did. I'm so glad I chose it that month for book of the month because I love thrillers now because of this book. So as I mentioned earlier, I've discovered my love for historical fiction, and it was either this one or City of Girls that started it for me. Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is such a unique story because it's narrated by Greek gods. Aphrodite is the main narrator, but then like she's telling the story to Ares and a couple other gods, and then they like switch off. So like this takes place in World Wars 1 and 2. It follows Hazel, James, Aubrey, and Colette. All their stories just collide somehow, and there's tragedy, there's romance, there's like coming of age. It's just so freaking good. But yeah, so then like the chapters about the war parts, Ares, the god of war, narrates it. The romantic parts, Aphrodite narrates, and it's just so unique, and I would love to reread this. It went by so fast. Like literally from the first page I had highlights because the writing is so lyrical and beautiful, poetic, whatever, all those good things. What is this, number 6 I think? Starfish by Kami Dawn Bowman. Tabbed the shit out of this book, you know, per usual. Loved this book. I read this for this year's Gilmore Girls readathon. I'll link that vlog down below so you can see my full thoughts on this. But this is about a girl named Kiko who again is Asian and was raised around all these like Asian expectations and stereotypes and racist comments about being an Asian woman, like, you know, being called exotic and shit. Like, been there. So it was super relatable in that sense. But Kiko has a very toxic relationship with her mother. She's just very neglectful and verbally abusive and just mean, honestly, and not supportive at all. And Kiko is just trying to get to this dream art school, and then she ends up traveling to California with her best friend, and she comes to terms with a lot of things and finds herself and has all these opportunities open up for her, and you just really like wish the best for Kiko throughout the whole book. And it's just such a beautiful story. Number 5, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Okay, first of all, if you haven't seen the show, read the book first, but also definitely watch the show afterwards because the show is phenomenal. I got Xavier hooked onto it, and it was like one of his first shows, series, whatever, that he watched all the way through and he was obsessed with. Stars Reese Witherspoon, and it's just so good. So this is a domestic story. It's about 2 different families. So there's this like white high-class family who has a rental house, and then this black mom and daughter. Pearl's a daughter, and then the mom is Mia, and she's an artist, a single mother, and they're moving into this predominantly white neighborhood, so everyone's like judging them and skeptical, and they're like, why are you here? Pearl becomes friends with the kids in the white family, and then there's this other mystery going on about what it means to be a mother, and it's hard to talk about without giving anything away. These 2 families have all these secrets. They all just reveal themselves by the end, and the writing is beautiful, and you just have to read it and you have to watch the show. It's worth the hype, I promise. Like, it lives up to the hype is what I wanted to say. Number 4 is The Mister by E.L. James. So my friend Steph actually gave this to me. She was like, you have to read this book. E.L. James is the author of the 50 Shades of Grey series. But like, do not let this deter you from reading this book, please. If you've seen the movie Taken with Liam Neeson in it, it's about like his daughter who gets kidnapped in Europe, and the dad just like goes through hell and back to try to find her. Such a good movie, and this book reminded me of that movie so much. It has some 50 Shades elements, like not BDSM, but like there's definitely a lot of smut. But the overall plot is that this guy hires this cleaning girl. He basically falls for her, and then she gets herself into some trouble because she's an immigrant, and she has all these like background issues, and then she gets herself into situations and he rescues her, saves her, he just protects her, and it's intense. It's an intense story. This is one of the first books I read during quarantine, so I don't really remember it much, like details, but I just know the feeling I had when I was reading it, the emotions and the anxiety I was feeling, but like the good kind when you're reading a good book, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's The Mister by E.L. James. I'm sorry, that was awful. Number 3 is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Oh my god, this book. I also read this towards the beginning of the year, so it's a little bit foggy for me, but it's so funny. That's the main thing about this book. It's hilarious. Like the way Gail Honeyman writes about Eleanor's little quirks and how she thinks through her day-to-day life. It's just so funny. Can't wait to reread this. Honestly, it goes by so quickly, and then it does have a lot of discussions about mental health. There's this one section about depression specifically. It's a Reese's book club pick, and pretty much all of her books have never disappointed me. So going off of that, if you ever go off of that, I mean, definitely worth the read. Eleanor Oliphant has depression, she has social anxiety, so she just like stays home, drinks a lot, eats pizza, has this like routine, and she's so quirky. She's friends with this IT guy at work. I'm not doing it justice. Just trust me when I say you'll have a good time reading this book. It's so funny. Also, especially if you're anything like me and you love mental health rep in books, get on this one. All right, we're in our top 2. The Secret History by Donna Tartt came in at number 2. So this is one of my longest books that I read this year, and look how many tabs I put on there. Is it gonna focus? It's not gonna focus, but you can still see. This was so like satisfying to get through. First of all, this edition is stunning. It's the book of the month hardcover edition. I read it because the Late Night Book Club read it for their first month. I could see why people don't like it. They didn't really like it much, but I gave it a full 5 stars. Obviously, all of these books are. I know Noelle Gallagher said that the main thing she hated about this book is that it made her feel like she was in school, because it talks a lot about school. It's dark academia for sure. It's like the epitome of dark academia. I don't know. I liked it. I like reading about, what's his name? I forgot the main dude's name, honestly. But anyway, he goes to this university and he meets this group of people who are in this like exclusive Greek class. The main character has always loved the Greek language, so he wanted to get into this class, but then when he heard that like it's so exclusive and like this teacher only lets in like a certain number of students, once you're in this class you have to take every class by this teacher, he was like more intrigued. He's like, okay, now I gotta get in. Like I don't even really care that it's about the Greek language, like I just want to see what's up. And then so he meets this very flawed group of people, and he gets himself into situations that he doesn't necessarily want to get into, but he goes along with anyways. And from the very start, you know that one of the characters gets murdered, and then the book just goes through the story backwards, basically. Not backwards, but like from the start, and then you find out what happened with the whole murder and everything. And it's really good. I think it's really good. Like I feel like a more well-rounded person now that I know what everyone's talking about when they talk about The Secret History. Because this like blows up in the autumn time, fall time, when people are posting their like TBRs for the fall and stuff, and fall recommendations. And then yeah, I was hooked and I got it from Book of the Month, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I did it, and it was a grand old time. Number 1 of 2020, We Are Not Surprised. She has her own little throne on my shelf. I say it in like every video. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this book blew up YouTube. It popped off like no other book I've ever seen. So this is by V.E. Schwab. This is the first V.E. Schwab book I've read, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I waited this long. Now I've read 3 books by her total, but this is the first. I mean, if you don't know what this is about, like, do you even like books? But it's about this girl, Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil, essentially. She calls it the darkness, but we all know it's the devil. She just like doesn't want to do the typical womanly things that are expected of her in the 1700s. So she's like, I want to live. I just want to live my life the way I want to. Help me. So she prays the gods, and then she didn't realize it was like after a certain hour, so it was technically dark, and then so this dark god came and he grants her wish and lets her live forever. But the consequence is that no one will remember her. So every time someone meets her and then they like go to another room or whatever, they won't remember her even after 10 seconds. One day she goes to this bookstore and then she meets this guy who does remember her, and then we find out why that is, and there's this whole like underlying plot of her and the devil and their relationship. It's just a lot, and The writing is just phenomenal. I forgot to even mention that. How did I forget to mention that? The writing is everything in this book. Another inconceivably phenomenal writer. It's like unfathomable how V.E. Schwab did this. Like apparently this took 10 years to write for her, and so it's like her baby and I'm just so glad it exists. I literally want this like constellation tattooed. I really think it's my next one. God, it's beautiful. I know I could cry. Like I literally, it's like almost 500 pages long and I read it in a day and a half or whatever, and I stayed up to finish it and I cried a little and I wanted to reread it again, but I was like, at least wait a couple more months until 2021. So yeah, this will definitely be read again this year. Well, I'll put her back right here in all the glory. Okay, let me not break it. There we go. We got through it. That's my top 10 of 2020. I am so excited to get all my reading done this year. I have a whole separate reading journal now from my bullet journal, and I'm just like trying to get more organized. And my goal this year is 100 books, and I want to read one classic a month and one book that's at least 500 pages a month. And if those are the same book, if classic is a 500-page book, then so be it. Those are my main goals, and then I have like little goals. Let me know what some of your top 10 of 2020 were. I would love to know. DM me on Instagram or whatever. I'll have my Goodreads and Instagram and everything linked down below. Also, let me know some of your reading goals. Let's talk, let's chat, let's have a good time. I need to go. I'm probably gonna film another video now. So thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and stay positive always. Hope y'all had a great day, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.